So, welcome anyway. I've got apologies from Jo, the Happiness Club, and she provides an online subscription, basically, a membership where you can join. I think it's for £25 a month, and you get access to her help as a therapist, and you can she gives daily updates every single day on how you can be happy in to do with mindset. So if you haven't checked her out yet, you should do. She has been there from the beginning, and I've known her for quite some time, to be honest, back when I was in an abusive relationship myself. So she's sort of been there for the full picture. And Helen Pryke, who I was hoping to get on because she's in Italy, but she isn't here, and she sent her apologies. And there are a couple of people which I am still expecting to join at some point. So hopefully they'll get in okay, and I'll be watching my phone at some point as well. So you all are familiar with Abuse Talk. You've joined in, most of you, with the Twitter chat. Most of you love the concept and the fact that we have discussions, and we are not really shy on discussing certain subjects. We want to get into it. And if people don't feel that they are able to join, and, we don't expect them to, we just say, just leave this week and come back the next week. So we have covered all different kinds of topics. I always say to people, especially sponsors, if you ever want to guest host, please do. I know a few of you have previously. It'd be good to see you back again. But it really gives our followers a chance to get to know you as well as a person, rather than maybe an organisation, and have those discussions. I've said to people before when they've guest hosted that it's actually a great opportunity for you to test the market as well. So perhaps you're thinking about a program, or you're thinking about a resource or a service, or whatever you do, you can actually put ask for some feedback out there as well. And people have done that, and I'm happy for you to do that as well. We have obviously having a big change. Most of you will have seen the new website, and if you haven't, I'm going to quickly flick through the website for you now, to be honest. So I'm going to just share my screen with you. So hopefully you have all been familiar with this, but if not, this is the new website, and obviously we've kept it on brand with the colours, and I've really kept it simple with the latest podcast, a login section for the forum, and a blog section, Twitter chat, and some obviously recommendations of people joining in. What I want to bring to attention is the forum this evening as well, which is where it all began. You'll see the About section. I've done a cute little explainer video to try and get people to understand what we do and put together what we do, our vision, our story. So when you have a moment, do take a look and get yourself familiar with it. Again, we've always referenced points on where to join, etc. And then obviously this is the area where you can find each other. If you don't want to put in the chat box where you're from, you can find it here on the sponsor section. So obviously we're going to have a chance to introduce ourselves in a bit, but here's our main sponsor, Rockpool, and forum sponsor, Lisa Pickering from Picasso Legal, A Positive Start, Twitter sponsor, the Menopause Directory, and obviously you can see some hopefully familiar faces here. And I've put some quotes here. So if anybody does want to write a testimonial, please do send, because it always helps. What I want to do is also share. The Twitter chat is really simple. I think most people have become familiar with the Twitter chat. So basically I've just left the feed there, and then at the bottom shown you how to join in. So I'm literally just going through the website with you all. If you haven't been on the podcast yet, then you are welcome to be on the podcast as well. It's also a great opportunity because we don't just have it on a podcast server. We also have it played out on this internet radio station called Access Northwest Radio Station, and they do it 3 times a week for us, which is fantastic, reaching about 10,000 people a month. And I'm going to skip here because we've got the lovely blog, and Sue's probably thinking, there's my face. But this is where I want you to get involved as well. And basically this is going to be a shared platform. So if you have any news, or you have any press releases, or you have an article, I want it to go here. This is the place. It's for you as sponsors, and hopefully I will be popping in material there as well. And that's an area I really want to develop, because I know you all have so much wealth of information, and this would be a really good platform to reach out, even if you're repeating some of the blog posts that you have got on your own platform and just maybe adjusting them for this one. So that's the blog. The forum has moved. So originally it was on my website, and obviously with the new website we've moved it all across and managed to keep everything intact. Now obviously this is something that's going to be important moving forward, because you can see we've got people replying here, but we are aware that what happened when we created the forum is that for people to get a reply, sometimes they weren't getting the notifications, and so that's where we're moving forward to change things. So that kind of gives you an idea of the website. I'm hoping you've already looked at it anyway, and if not, don't feel guilty, you've got plenty of option. It's there for you to look at. So remembering that the blog is for all of you to jump on in, press releases, articles, anything you want to share, pop it on there. Let's get your word out on that one. And also bringing attention to the forum. So as I mentioned, we've had connection issues to do with people getting notifications, and so that is where we have now got an app in development. So the app will actually be incognito as a little look after your flower app, which I really like the idea of, because I do think we all flourish and bloom and grow when we come out of an abusive relationship, and I'm certainly have hopefully grown a bit taller. Maybe I'm a sunflower now, not a little shrub. But the idea is that you will head on into the app and you will water your flower, you will put seeds in, you will prune it, and that will actually be the code as how do you get into the forum. The forum is there to put training, education for people. It's a mixture of professionals and people with lived experiences, and I am aware that there are some people that join the forum because they're in an abusive relationship, which was why we have made it incognito, to be honest. So this app has come at a price of £4,000, so you'll be glad to know that I've taken a calculated risk, but I realise that it's needed. And if you sign up for the app and you become a member of the forum, you're probably wondering, how do people get these notifications? So it'll be simply as if somebody replies to you, you'll get a little notification on your phone saying your flower needs watering or needs attention. So we've really thought about the safety aspect of it. So I'm going to show you a couple of images of the very early stages, and I'm saying very early stages because I literally commissioned somebody a couple of weeks ago with the idea, and they've just started sending me graphics and different things back for me to think about. So I'm going to share my screen again, and you can have a look at some of the app layout. Let me get this up first. Making sure I share the right screen because you never know. Right. So this looks really simple. It's just an image that they've sent me, and it's very small. I appreciate that. They've just been putting things together to get an idea. And I like this app called the Forest app, and you basically download it, and it's to keep yourself away from the phone. So if you put grow your tree in 20 minutes, then you have to stay off your phone or your tree will die. Obviously mine is nothing like that, because we're not killing our flowers, we're trying to look after them. So this is a really simple concept. You can see the branding, we're working still on the elements of it, but if I take you to some of the moving graphics, which I can only do this way, you can see that we're starting to think about what it's going to look like, what the feel is like. It's going to be really simple, and it's not really a marketing kind of plan, because most people will access it through Abuse Talk. People find out about it. We're not planning on putting it in the App Store for people to just fall upon. People will purposely fall upon it. So hopefully that gives you an idea and a feel. Now, the reason why you're here, I'm just going to let Richard in because he's just joined, is because we need to connect, and I feel that it would be better for us to all know about one another, and because I have had those couple of conversations about who does what, you know, actually this sponsor provides this sponsor provides this, and we have no idea about one another. So for me, it was a good chance for you guys to introduce yourselves. And so what I'm going to do is just go around my screen and get you to introduce yourself. If you tell everybody about what you do and perhaps how it maybe helps the sector, that would be brilliant. Again, remembering you can pop the information in the chat box, or head to the sponsor side of the website. So I'm going to put Sue Penner on the spot, who's from Rockpool. So you just need to press unmute, Sue.
Sorry.
No problem.
I knew you'd come to me first, and I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know what I'm going to say, really. I don't want to rabbit on. So I'm Sue. Hello, everybody. Lovely to meet you all. I've got this. What's my title, Jennifer? Creative Director at Rockpool, I think, isn't it?
Chief. I think there's a chief.
Oh, am I? Oh,
I think so.
Sounds posh. And I'm the co-founder of Rockpool, anyway. And Rockpool's been going for nearly 4 years, I think now. My background is originally in adult mental health. Worked for years. I trained as an OT. Worked for years, mainly with people that had complex. It wasn't recognised as complex trauma then, but people that had experienced trauma as children and then ended up coming through the mental health service as a result of the trauma they experienced. And I spent a lot of my life battling against people being labelled and given diagnoses for things when actually the issue was that they'd had something horrible happen to them and they needed some opportunity to process that, really. I've also been I had my hair cut today. I'm just looking at myself on the mirror and it doesn't look quite right. And do you know that feeling when you come back from the hairdressers and what you really want to do is just wash your hair and do it, and then it'll be right. I'm looking incredibly well, I'm old, but I'm looking old. It's usually a bit spikier and a bit funkier. It's just full of their greasy stuff. Sorry, I got preoccupied. I also ran a domestic abuse forum for a few years, way before domestic abuse forums were now in most areas. They're strategy coordinators within local authorities. I worked independently for a long time. I used to do some work for Safe Lives before they were Safe Lives, so I was a lead trainer on their all their independent domestic violence advisor courses for them. But I suppose the thing that I mostly did is that I started writing back in 2007, I think it possibly was, a program for, at the time, women that had experienced domestic abuse and were away from domestic abuse, because I think it's got a bit better, but I felt that what we do a lot of the time is we make women safe by putting them in refuge or whatever. And but what wasn't being addressed was the emotional impact that living with someone who was controlling you had on you. So the psychological shifts and changes that we might go through when we're living, and the way that it distorts our thinking. And that was the Recovery Toolkit, which is now also a self-help book. And since then, we've written other programs for children that have lived with domestic abuse, for adults that have experienced sexual violence, not within an intimate partner relationship. And more latterly, we've been doing a lot of work around adverse childhood experiences and children that have grown up with developmental trauma, becoming adults often being vulnerable adults and often being targeted for abusive relationships. So, and we as an organisation train people frontline workers to run these programs with their clients. Is that what we do, Jennifer?
I think that is in a nutshell, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I mean, it goes, it's quite far and wide, isn't it? And
I'll put our website up and people can have a look and see what we do. And we're sort of, COVID's had a huge effect on our work because most of our work is in the room with people. A lot of what I think we do is attitudinal change with people. So getting people to think beyond what they see and getting people to understand the complexity of what psychological abuse does to individuals, whether they're a child or an adult that experiences. And we can't get in the room with anybody now. So we're having to look at what we can do online. And I think it's really hard to have that same relationship with the people that you're wanting to work with on Zoom.
Yeah, I suppose
I'm having a bit of a zoomed out day. Sorry, I'm a bit incoherent.
That's no problem.
My life is Zoom. That's what I do.
I know, I suppose it is late on, but I felt that maybe I wouldn't have children screaming in the background or...
It's fine. I'm not very coherent. I don't think I'm being very coherent. And a delightful, I met Jennifer, Jennifer, a while ago. And Jennifer's one of our associates at Rockpool, and we really believe in what she's doing. There's nothing else like it out there. So it's a really important work that Jen is doing. And we're just really delighted to be able to support it.
Thank you, Sue. I suppose I mean, I'm hoping most of you have heard a bit of my journey in regards to Rockpool anyway, but for those of you who don't know, I went on one of their recovery programs, which wasn't run by Rockpool. They've trained the staff in the area, which was Hull DAP for me, which is Hull Domestic Abuse Partnership, and they delivered one of the recovery toolkits. And so I went on that for the 12-week program, and to be fair, the biggest bonus in my head at the time was that the kids were looked after in the creche. So that was definitely the yes, I will go on this then, because the kids will have some time off. And by the end of it, that's when I realised that I really needed to talk about my experiences, and at the time there was no law in place to do with coercive control. So obviously my situation involved that predominantly, and I didn't really have any support from the criminal system, or then going through the family court system was interesting. So for me, I felt that if that doesn't support the type of abuse that I've experienced, then I needed to raise awareness, and obviously it's happened in different ways. But I feel very honoured that Rockpool are a sponsor, because it's that right there in personal terms, because without that programme I wouldn't be doing this. So I feel very thankful that you are on board with us. So thank you, Sue, for joining us.
Welcome.
I won't get emotional.
No.
Oh, sorry, I've muted you and then you started talking again. She's given up. Becky, who I got the pleasure of meeting this year.
We did, finally.
After all this time.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Becky. I'm from What's the Debate, which is my own company, which I produce and make my own resources for schools for relationship and sex education. So lots and lots of different topics. Well, that's what I'm looking, because they're there, because I've been printing a lot today because orders are starting to come back in. So I do that, but I also do a lot of the educational workshops with the kids, and go in and teach teachers around relationship and sex education, how they can talk to young people around sexting and porn and all that stuff. I do this because I see relationship and sex education as a massive safeguarding tool for young people around domestic abuse and CSE. That is my background. I've been working with sexual trauma, CSE and DV since I was 18, and started off in the children's home for boys. So I'm very much around advocating that it does happen to boys as well. We had situations where it was happening to two of our lads and it was ignored by staff because, well, they're just boys going out having fun, and no, they weren't. So through that, I've also been a local authority coordinator for CSE service and children's manager for domestic abuse service, where we had a massive team of young persons IDVAs and ISVAs and DA advocates and CSE advocates and county lines advocates. And then I just branched out and decided to do this for myself.
And I don't know if anybody is seeing Becky's resources, but they're quite they're like playing cards that open up the discussion, which really works well. So they're little PVC cards that literally just have loads of different statements, myths, misconceptions that you can all say. This is for the primary school, so it's around kind of like bringing in that conversation around like peer pressure and all that kind of stuff. I'm a huge advocate for peer education in many different forms. Through years of doing workshops in schools and working with young people, they'd rather listen to young people. And actually some of the best workshops I've had is where I've literally just said a statement and said, do you agree or disagree? They've gone to either side of the room, and then actually they've challenged each other in a really safe way. And because a young person's frame of influence now is massive because of social media and, you know, even down to PlayStation games and what they're watching and or things they have access to. They literally can sit there and go, but I saw this on this channel, and another young person go, yeah, but I saw this. And they can really challenge each other. And some of the great feedback I share, one of my favourite ones is that I liked that we could challenge each other on controversial subjects in a really safe way. And I sometimes will literally just say 4 or 5 little sentences, and they just see the little light bulb moments of like, oh yeah, what about this? And what about that? So that's why I did it. And it's great because it kind of fits in with abuse talk in the terms of you talk about opening up the discussion, and that's really what it's about, isn't it? Opening that discussion. So Becky and I met after, well, you joined Abuse Talk in terms of joining on Twitter, really, didn't you? You were participating, and sort of we got talking, because obviously if anybody hasn't joined in the Twitter chat a lot or not joined in other ones, once you get going, you get familiar with other people that join in, and there's sort of like the core amount of people that will join in and dedicate every week. And your logo is obviously quite distinct, so you are easy to remember for me. But Becky is also an SBS winner. So I rained on my husband's parade and decided to go in April, but I hadn't won by that point. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to win because it's been 2 or 3 years of tweeting every single Sunday. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to bunk off my husband and say, can I go and take the certificate, only to win the other week. So we actually got to meet, which was really quite nice. And I would have persuaded you to have a drink, but you had to go. And to be fair, maybe a good thing that we didn't share a few drinks.
We had to go. I was very lucky. I think I won after 2 months of setting up the business. Whereas my mum she won 2 months ago, and she's been trying for about 4 years. So there was that huge thing of then first year I went, she came as my +1 because she helped me set my business. And then this year, my husband came as my +1, and I was like, next year you just have to fight. He's going to be the +1, but now she's won, so it's fine. We can all
so if anybody isn't familiar with it, the SBS is run by Theo Pathetis, which is a former dragon, and obviously UK, sorry Kelly, but you will have Dragon's Den in the US, I'm sure. And he runs a competition every single Sunday evening between 5:30 and 7:30, I think it is. And you basically put your tweet in to share your business, and hopefully you're one of the 6 to be chosen on the Monday. And it opens up opportunities, doesn't it? So it's been really interesting. So if you haven't joined in, you can all join in with that one. I encourage you. Some of you are not so hot on Twitter. I'm not looking at a certain person. So thank you, Becky, and thank you for your support.
That's it. Thank you.
Right, I've got Kelly here, who's from the US. So hi, Kelly.
Hey, how's it going? I don't know what a Dragon's Den is. I don't think we have that here.
It's like a bit like, it's like you go in and pitch your business and hopefully you're chosen, but really the dragons are like they're quite judgmental, I would say. I don't know if anybody else wants to pitch in on how to explain what Dragon's Den is. Go on, Fiona's gagging for it.
It's a better version, or I think it's a nicer version. What's the one that Alan Sugar does that Donald Trump did?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to link
called?
it to. Is it The Apprentice?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
it's, yeah, so
small and condensed and pitched, and you can put your business forward and hope to get an investment, basically.
oh, okay. Yeah, I've never heard of it. That's super interesting.
it's called Shark Tank in the States.
Oh, Shark Tank. Yes.
There we go. Thank you for
I know what that is. Yeah. Yeah, that makes more sense. You guys have the same thing, but you call it Dragon's Den? That's hilarious. That's more exciting, I think, than Shark Tank.
So yeah, please do tell everyone about you and what you do, Kelly.
So I'm Kelly Smith. I'm an author. I have my one book out currently, which is Signs in the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind, where I write about my own experiences being not only abused, but also the abuser, plot twist. In my marriage for 20 years, I abused my husband for a good amount. It got divorced and then got into an extremely toxic relationship and then had the same thing done to me. And after I got out of that, I was able to heal and go through a recovery program, and then wrote about all of my experiences on being an abusive person and being the abused. I do have my second book coming out, hopefully in December, which is Dating After a Toxic Relationship. So I'm super excited about this one. This is just, it's great. So I'm also a certified life coach. I specialize in helping people to date after a toxic relationship, how to heal from it, to know when they're ready, what the signs look like, if you're ready, if you're able to get out there, and how to date in like a healthy way, how to pick up on red flags, how to know the differences between a red flag and a flaw, like what that might be. Because as we know, like after being in an abusive relationship, dating after that can be so confusing, super, super confusing. So I've been doing that for a while, and it's pretty exciting, and I love it, actually. So I like going in on Abuse Talk because I like to see the dating aspect of it. Just gets me just so like interested in like, what is everyone doing and how are they doing it and how are they managing and how did they find love after they were abused. And I'm just enamored with that whole like idea of dating and all that stuff after something so toxic and abusive.
No, thank you. And I think we met through Twitter because obviously we couldn't have just bumped into each other because we're obviously overseas. But Kelly tends to be the person I go to when I have US people going, I need help. And I go, Kelly, you're a bit closer than me. Please help me with it if I can't find anything on Google. And I think actually Lisa replied to somebody today who is in the US in the forum, which I might need to. You don't know.
Didn't know they weren't in this country, but nice, thanks.
Yeah, so generally I will go to Kelly and ask, help with this or whatnot if I can't find it. So thank you, Kelly, for that support. It really does help there. Right, and we've got Fiona, who is probably our newest sponsor.
Ooh. I'm just going to change to gallery view so I'm not massively on the screen. Hi, my name is Fiona Catchpole, and I am the creator of the Menopause Directory, which is a nurse-led online consultation service via video for menopause diagnosis and HRT prescription. We have literally been created out of COVID in this current format because originally it was a bricks and mortar directory, as all of the nurses that I'm connected with are menopause specialists and all have their own private clinics, but of course they can't go to their clinics anymore. So we discovered that the NHS had video consultation guidelines. Menopause doesn't need a blood test to be diagnosed. In most cases, women just really want to talk about it, understand why they're experiencing symptoms. They want to know where they are on their hormone highway and what are the choices and how could they best look after themselves at this point in time and in the future as well. So I created the whole framework of what there is now, which basically means people can go to the website, choose a day and time, book. It is a private healthcare service, so there is a fee involved, which is at the moment it's £135. But it means that they don't have to wait for a GP, they can get their diagnosis straight away. And because all of our nurses are also independent prescribers, if they want HRT, they can have it. After the consultation, they also get a letter sent to their GP to explain what's been discussed, and if they then want to have a follow-up from the GP and get their NHS prescription, they can do it that way as well. And they also still have the option for a follow-up from the nurses to come back and see them. And this is actually a world first. I can't find anybody else in the world offering this, but it's been a huge learning curve in the last few weeks. We have now had authorization from the Royal College of Nursing, which is a huge thing here for my nurses, because they were really reticent. We didn't know if it was going to be a long-term project or not, and now they've said telemedicine is here to stay. So it's something that we are now reaching out to other countries, and it's been amazing. So it's great to be helping women at that kind of level, because menopause education is very poor with GPs and understanding hormones in general. So I'd like to think that somewhere along the line we could help the survivors and people connected with abuse talk in their hormonal health, which can be, you know, you came to the talk last week, Jen, so you understand a bit more about it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you're sponsoring as the Menopause Directory, but I do want to touch on the contraceptive service, only because so Fiona does a contraceptive service as well, which you can sign up for, and it comes through the post, which is again out of COVID-19, when you maybe couldn't get your prescription as effectively because all the laws had changed as well, which really frustrates me about my own medication. And basically we had a conversation, maybe a few of you will remember, on Abuse Talk about contraceptive control over partners, and that made for a really interesting discussion on partners having that element of control over somebody, and sort of linking to what you did. So we're trying to link.
Yeah, I'd like to be both, but I can't afford both at the moment. So as soon as I've got more consultations, I can be a double sponsor. But yeah, it's the same group of nurses that I started working with. Basically, I have an interest in supporting women through menopause. My actual background is social media. I've been teaching business owners how to use Facebook for the last 10 years, and that's how Jen and I met. But my passion project has been understanding menopause through my own experiences. Last year, when I moved back from Spain to the UK, I started working with a project called Menopause in the Workplace, which helps to go into large organisations and implement a policy, a menopause policy, so women can feel safe and comfortable in asking for help and knowing kind of all the different variables in a workplace where they sit. And so as a result of learning more about the UK side of things with regards to menopause, as we turned into 2020, I was like, oh no, I'd created the Menopause Directory 3 years ago, and I'd just been blogging and using it as social media kind of as my sounding board. And then it was this year, after a trip back from the Vagina Museum, sorry Richard, that my nurse, my lead medic said, what are you going to do with that blog? Why don't you turn it into a nurse-led clinic directory? And it's the same cohort of nurses. Once I taught them how to use video consultations, they all have NHS hours. And as COVID struck, the first thing they said was, they're shutting the family planning clinics. Can we do pills by post? Can we do contraception online? And so we built that first, and that runs in the background really. But Jen has suggested that we perhaps maybe push that to the front a little bit. At the moment, because again, it was something we didn't know how long was going to last, and if video consultations were going to be covered. We do know now that they are, and it's all covered under CQC, the Royal College of Nursing, and the other nurse union. I forgot what the initials are, there's so many abbreviations. We have all the safeguarding in place and things like that, like you've had to do with your app. So women get just a plain text from us or a reminder on their consultation. It doesn't say it's for either contraception or menopause and things like that. So yeah, so we create this end-to-end service, and we're also working with a pharmacist who can actually then straight away get everything delivered to you. That was a very long time, Sue. I beat you there. I went on longer than you. Sorry.
To be fair, it doesn't surprise me. In my back of my head, I was like, Fiona's the one to watch out for in all this. So Fiona and I met in October last year when we were at the Social Media Marketing Awards for the UK and Europe. I'm going to put Europe in there. And we were actually up for the same category, and I won. I don't want to say it like that. We've made so good friends there, and we've actually had such a good working relationship since
Jen
then.
came first and I came second, but they announced it in reversed order, so I got mine and ran down and was screaming, and then Jen didn't hear your name announced, did you?
I switched off. I think I was tired, but there we go. So it's been great to meet somebody in person, and then it completely changed the other way. You're probably the first person I've met in person and then converted the other way. Right. After that one,
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, just because you're talking about hormonal health, have you any thoughts of, or are you ever likely to cover something like endometriosis?
Oh, wait.
Yes, we're actually working with we're hoping to do more with the Endometriosis Foundation. Amila Beglam, I interviewed her for our programme. She had her treatment from one of our nurses at Liverpool Women's Hospital.
Right.
And so endometriosis, very undiagnosed, something that people suffer from, and also they can have induced menopause, so they therefore then need hormone replacement therapy, or should be guided through that process if they reach the right person. So we've spoken with Amila, and now that we have the go-ahead from everything, we're hoping to kind of donate a consultation once a month. They're looking to see if they can do fundraising to part pay for some consultations for women suffering from endometriosis that can't get the right NHS support. So, but anything else that you can suggest along those lines, we're happy to look at.
Thank you. I'll be in touch maybe. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's go to Deborah. Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Okay. I'm sure most people will know you because you join in nearly every week to the #abuse talk, which is great. So do you want to tell everybody about you and what you do?
Hi everybody, I'm Deborah Crozier. I'm based in the Scottish borders, so as you can tell I'm not Scottish, I'm from Yorkshire. I'm probably closer to where Jen's from than Scotland. I run a company called, a community interest company called A Positive Start CIC. I've been running that probably since 2008, but I've been running it as a CIC only since 2017. The reason I set it up is so that I can provide services for people that probably can't afford them. Well, that was the idea behind it, to get funding to be able to offer those services free and low cost. So the services we offer are write workshops, a lot like Sue was saying. I do some workshops, one particular called Stand, which is a grooming behaviours workshop. We go out and we train trainers on grooming behaviours, and particularly parental grooming, and how some people groom families in order to get, single parents, that sort of thing, to get to children. So that's one side of what we do. The other side is I'm a person-centred counsellor and also EFT practitioner. So we offer services in-house through NHS Borders, send us people. There's not a lot of services in Scottish Borders. Everything's been cut recently, so we're absolutely pulled out, with services for women. I'm actually next door to Border Women's Aid, and we just, it's just constant with people coming through, which is really sad, but yeah. So that's me.
Thank you. And so we've met through tweeting, really, to be honest, but it's been great because you've made some connections through Twitter, so on the Twitter chat, which has been great to hear about, and funnily enough, when they're actually closer to you than unexpected, really. The thing that I've been highlighting, I hope you don't mind, and for everybody, I do try and tell people, please mention that you've come from #abuse talk, so that at least you guys know that that's where where people have come from. But it's up to the person to do that, so I don't have much control. But I have been telling everybody that you provide free counselling on the online counselling at the moment, which has been a great help for people. And so I can signpost to that. So if anybody needed to know that, speak to Deborah about it. So thank you, Deborah. And you are also relatively new to the sponsor team, so thank you for being here. And it's great to connect everybody this evening. Right, let's go to Lisa Pickering, who's like, oh no, I'm not.
Cheers, everybody, first. Priorities.
And before, while she's having a drink, I've known Lisa for years. In fact, I probably knew Lisa when I was in an abusive relationship, to be honest, back then when I lived in Chester. And you've been on my journey with me, really, in terms of how things have developed, and you've sort of been watching it. Lisa is the lady that is not so good on Twitter, even though I try and encourage her to be.
I periodically promise to be better and just don't. I do try every time, and listening to all of you, I'm thinking I'm missing out on a lot. I really ought to engage more. I hereby again, there are witnesses. I will promise to try harder. It's what my school report used to tell me I had to do, so nothing changes. So hello everybody, I'm Lisa. So I've also had hair issues today. I've got it yanked back in so you can't see quite how long the grey roots are growing. Becky, I need some of your cards because my daughter has been telling me about her new relationships with a girl which her dad has struggled to deal with. Kelly, hang on, I had something for you as well, Kelly. Yeah, dating after an abusive relationship, so hard. I've cocked it up for the last 5 years since I left the abusive relationship. I haven't cocked it up. I'm just sort of muddling along, you know. Anyway, so there's that. Fiona, hasn't this pandemic really made some changes in everything? And oh my God. And Deborah, you're overrun with the amount of work because of the pandemic. So am I. I think I replied to an email of yours today. It's taken me practically a week to get back to you. I'm so sorry. Things are hugely busy. Who thought everybody staying at home would, oh yeah, we all did think this is what would happen, didn't we, really? We saw what was going to happen, but there you are. So I've been giving as many people as I can some legal advice. I'm a family solicitor, specialising in domestic abuse, but all the bits and pieces that can go with that. So divorce, sorting out the finances, sorting out the children, making a will. If anybody is interested, we do free wills for everybody that is aged over 18. There's no catch. You are asked to consider giving a gift to a charity, but it's not compulsory. You can say, thought about it, the answer's no. That's actually one of my colleagues or what have you at Picasso Legal, which is the name of the firm, but I do the family stuff. And we have been manically busy, overrun with so many non-mol applications. I've lost count actually now of how many court appointments I have done from this room in my pajamas trying to get somebody a non-molestation order. And fortunately, the process has just about kept on top of what is required, what changes are required to how the courts are dealing with it, but they have in no way kept up with the amount that is required. We're overrun. It's quite scary, but you know, we do what we can. So that's me. And again, I do promise to get back on Twitter.
And I think I feel sorry for Lisa because basically she's the solicitor that obviously everybody goes to when they ask for help on abuse talk. And obviously with the coronavirus, I think everybody's seen that increase, and it's been, you know, even people, you're not just dealing with people that are in abusive relationships, you're dealing with people that are just suddenly taking people back to court because they're in the past and they've come back, and on all this, and it's just not been easy. So I do apologise for the people that I keep sending your way.
Well, yeah, I mean, thank you for that, but you know, this is my world, and it's just there are a lot of solicitors out there. We're all dealing with the same law, but I think we've all got our own little spin that we can put on it. And you know, having been through the sort of experiences that they have experienced, we all experience in our own way, but a lot of it is familiar, which means that I can recognise stuff. So, you know, I was speaking to a client today who was telling me bits and pieces, and every now and then the stomach was lurched because you just, oh God, yeah, I get it. But other people wouldn't necessarily recognise that it's a problem. It's just like, well, what's the deal? Why don't you just respond with X or Y? It's so easy. And it isn't so easy. But when you're dealing with an industry, primarily male judges, male or female, that haven't been through these sort of experiences, trying to get them to understand and protect people when it's necessary, well, you know, it's a battle. But so please do keep sending them to me, and I will do what I can. But yeah, we're busy.
Thank you. And the part of the reason why we wanted to sort of do this is because Lisa needs to be connected to Sue on the training element of what you do, Sue, with domestic abuse, and Deborah for the online counselling, and, you know, trying to make our links solidified really as Abuse Talk, because we can all probably solve each other's problems in a way, because we're all looking for, maybe somebody comes to us and asks for this support that you don't have. It's available as our there in our links, so it's worth having that connection. So do make sure that you follow up with each other after as well. So right, well, we've got Richard, hi. I know you come in sort of in the networking aspect of it. You missed the sort of whiz through the website and the app information. I did that really quick. I was quite impressed. I have known Richard, I don't know how long. I don't know how you came across me, Richard, actually. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell everyone a bit about you?
I first of all come across you with your books first, because basically a lot of what I do, I'm not in. I work for a company. I don't actually do anything myself per se. Just I'm a social media addict, really, and you've heard it here first. No, I literally on social media day in, day out, more or less. It feels like 24/7. So basically, if you want to get a message out, I'm probably one of the people to do that for you in a roundabout way. But I've always loved reading, and I came across Jennifer's books first, and then she lovely came to support me with one of my very small festivals that I've put on. Not this year because of the current situation, but for the last couple of years, you've come all the way up from Hull to support me. And nobody's really come to support you, which is a shame, but it's been still nice to meet you on that side. But I've also come across domestic abuse in different ways. My wife came from a domestic violent relationship before me. So the dating bit, yeah, we had all that. All the walls and the red flags and everything else at the time. But we got there. We're talking nearly 25 years later, the other side of it. Of that. Also, like I've been running tonight, I'm sorry to come in and be eating my tea halfway through as I come in late and whatever. But I have people who come to my running group who are either have come the other side of it or are going through it in one way or another, and are at various different stages. And part of the running is, yes, there's a physical side, but we really are there for mental, for me as well as them as well, but also gives them a safe place to come and make friends outside their normal circumstances, and then hopefully then to be able to chat to people to then start to look at ways to come out of that. I'm not sitting here saying I've been through it myself, so I can't actually say that. All of what I do for mental side of it and the domestic side of it is signposting. So a lot of it would be, say, go and see what happens on Twitter on a Wednesday night with Jennifer, etc., or going to the rock pool or whoever. And in a very small way, I just felt it right because you supported me, for me to support you. And I think it's a invaluable thing out there. It still needs so much more awareness, so much more support out there. And yes, it does happen to us men too. We can get abused, etc. as well. And it's not so easy for us men in many ways. We're difficult beasts at the best of times, let alone if we're in an abusive relationship as well on top of that. So I'm not sitting here saying I've got the answer. Far from it. All I can offer really is support, to sponsor in a small way yourself, but also to offer my small chance to promote all of you at whatever time you want to. Kelly's got the books. I would love to know about your books so I can put them onto. I've got a book group that I've got. This gradually going there, and I'm really discovering Twitter as we speak, really, because my book group has just gone on to Twitter, etc. And my history club's going on there as well. And again, that's driven by other people, not by me. I've deliberately stayed away from Twitter up to this point, really. Done a little bit of it for work, but not really used that. I'm a Facebook is my primary place there, but I'm now even. It's Jennifer's fault, really. On another one of her groups, on the small business group, they had one of these ideas about subscriptions and things, and because of work, I can't actually listen to a lot of the stuff that goes on during the day, but I listened to it at a stupid hour because I couldn't sleep. I think it was about midnight. I think I was listening to the talk. So there, at that moment, as I was listening to it, the idea about how I could actually do that in part with my book thing clicked at 1 o'clock in the morning. And all I'm doing there for the next 2 hours is writing, scribbling down, what can I do, all these different things. I've got all these pieces of paper with all sorts of rubbish on, spiders basically on there, but I haven't got a clue how to do it. You know, I'm not techie in any shape or form. I barely use whatever there is out there, so I haven't got a clue. I tried to do a website for a hobby thing, and I brought all these. I brought the domain name, the hosting, everything else, but I still can't actually use the blooming website. Even do the most simple thing is on WordPress, for goodness sake. But I'm paying out like £30-40 a month for all this stuff that's supposed to be. I thought I brought everything I needed to get it done. But
Richard, we'll have to have a chat about that.
Absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. It's an awful experience. But anyway, but then through this, I've now chatted to at least one, and talked to another person as well, about what the costs are and how I can actually get somebody to do that for me. Mm-hmm. I can give them the ideas and say, please just set the website up that can do that. Because I've got the enthusiasm, but I haven't got the knowledge of that side of it at all.
I mean, yeah, you've got, so what I love is that sometimes I put something out there, as all of you will know, having your own business or organisation, you put something out there and it doesn't get any attention on social media, and then Richard just comes along and he shares it to like 20 different places. It really helps. And sometimes, you know, it's a message that is just about sharing an experience, and it's important. So thank you, Richard, for your support really, and everything. I'm seriously, if anybody needs to get
ladies in this room tonight, so
well, yeah, if anybody needs to get the message out there, speak to Richard. He'll just keep sharing everybody's things. I think on Facebook, Richard, I shared everybody's tags, business pages in one post, so you should be able to see everybody on there as well. So you can have a nosy. So thank you, Richard. So that's everybody introduced, and so I just want to say a big thank you to all of you, really, for being with me on the journey. Obviously, it's going to be a huge change as we move forward and the app gets developed, which obviously as sponsors you will be on and a part of, which is quite nerve-wracking, but I am excited, and your sponsorship goes towards that. Obviously you've heard my personal loan that I've put into it, but it's a calculated risk, and for me it's needed and people have asked for it, so how can I not do it? I would like to ask if anybody had any questions, or if anybody wanted to ask anybody else any questions, if anything that had come up, or you can all unmute yourselves now, and that's fine. We can all chat amongst ourselves.
But Richard, I can give you